All right, let's just jump right into it. Welcome, everyone, to this explainer on the new Marvel television Vision Quest trailer. We are stepping into a genuinely dark, really fascinating puzzle together today. Now, you know how trailers for big comic book shows can often just be flashy action sequences, right? Loud music, quick cuts, the usual stuff. But this one, man, this is a dense psychological thriller packed with a deep, deep sense of existential dread. It stands out because it doesn't rely on explosions to get your attention. It relies on fractured psychology and some incredibly sharp, dense dialogue. So we're going to carefully pull apart the threads of this transcript to untangle exactly what is happening to a beloved, yet completely broken, synthetic being. Okay, let's dive into this. Right out of the gate, we're hit with the ultimate, heavy-hitting question. Who am I? It's such a short phrase, but the universal weight it carries is massive. Think about that for a second. Imagine waking up tomorrow and genuinely not knowing the answer to that question. Not just having a bad day, but completely lacking any anchor to your own reality. This marks our immediate descent into the protagonist's shattered state. And what makes this so compelling is that we're watching a highly advanced, incredibly powerful being suffer through a deeply human, deeply vulnerable identity crisis. We are starting our journey from the absolute bottom of a character's psyche. Section 1, Identity Crisis and Virtue. The transcript kicks off with this profound sense of isolation. To really understand where this character is now, we have to look at the massive gap between his past and his present. On one hand, there are these distant, almost foggy memories of being an Avenger. Someone recalls a time before he worked there, when he used to come in all the time with that redhead. There's a legacy of connection there, of being part of a team, of being a celebrated hero. But contrast that with his present reality. When asked about his life now, he flat out states, "I'm not a hero anymore." And when asked if anyone is waiting for him tonight, his response is devastatingly simple. Home is just me. I want you to feel that melancholic shift. It's the tragic emotional whiplash of going from a glorious, connected past to an entirely empty, isolated present. The silence of that empty home is literally deafening. And this brilliantly illustrates the depth of his internal struggle. I have his face, but not his virtue. All I have is his name. It's an incredibly powerful contradiction. What does it actually mean to wear the face of a good man, but feel like you completely lack his soul? Have you ever experienced a moment of imposter syndrome in your own life or career? Now, amplify that feeling 1,000,000 times over, and imagine wearing the face of a dead savior, carrying his name, but feeling entirely devoid of the moral compass, the virtue that defined him. He's walking around in a shell that he fundamentally believes he hasn't earned and simply doesn't deserve. I'm a stranger to myself. Alongside this devastating line is the heartbreaking realization that his previous life, the family you thought he had, it wasn't real. It was an illusion. And this blank slate he's left with is absolutely terrifying. If everything you thought grounded you in reality turns out to be a fabrication, what is left? You're left entirely lost. We're looking at a consciousness that is frankly terrified of its own reflection, desperately grasping for anything real to hold on to in a world where its own memories are counterfeit. Section 2, The Return of Ultron. Suddenly, boom, that quiet, melancholic reflection is violently shattered by a shocking, abrupt command. Ultron, human avatars only. We also hear a voice pleading, "Sir, I cannot overstate the dangers of keeping him around." Imagine the sheer panic required to scream that command. Why human avatars only? It implies a desperate, immediate need to keep an immensely powerful artificial intelligence out of a digital space where it can spread like wildfire. This isn't just a bad memory resurfacing. This is an active, present, and horrifying threat. The tension spikes immediately, making it clear that keeping this entity close is a profoundly dangerous game. The transcript doesn't mince words about the stakes here, explicitly referring to Ultron as a genocidal maniac currently residing inside his head. Just let the absolute terror of that sink in for a minute. You're already a stranger to yourself, you feel completely devoid of virtue, and now you discover that your only internal roommate is the universe's greatest threat. You are trapped inside your own mind with a monster. The way this dialogue builds tension, stacking an apocalyptic external threat directly on top of a fragile internal crisis, is absolutely masterful. Section 3. A Machine's Mysterious Family. Just when you think you have a handle on the dark, psychological thriller aspect of this story, the transcript throws a massive, disorienting curveball. The dialogue rapid-fires these unexpected titles at him. Dad? Papa? Peepa? Imagine the pure absurdity and whiplash of this moment. You have a highly advanced synthetic machine having a total existential meltdown, housing a world-ending villain in his skull, and suddenly someone is calling him Peepaw. It introduces this hilarious, confusing dynamic that completely upends the heavy narrative we've been tracking. And the abruptness continues with this incredibly dry line, Mazel tov, it's a boy. The timing here is just brilliant. It highlights the sheer, unadulterated shock of our protagonist discovering he has a son. But more than that, it gives us, the audience, and Vision himself, a momentary absurd breather before the darkness inevitably crashes back down. It's a perfectly placed comedic beat that makes the surrounding tension feel even sharper. But that humor very quickly gives way to something deeply serious. I had a father, a machine, called Vision. Someone is actively pushing back on the idea that Vision's family wasn't real. This line validates the existence of the son and challenges the very definition of what it means to be a family. It forces us to ask a profound question. What actually makes a father? Is it strictly biology, blood, genetics? Or is it legacy, impact, and the bonds we choose to forge? For a synthetic machine to have a real, tangible lineage changes the entirety of what his existence actually means. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we can map out the three violently conflicting forces at play here, layered right on top of each other. First, there's the body, the synthetic shell that feels it only possesses a stolen face and an unearned name. Second, there's the mind, which is currently occupied and corrupted by a literal genocidal maniac. And finally, there's the heart, represented by this newly discovered son, a sudden spark of genuine connection. How can these three elements possibly coexist without completely tearing the protagonist apart? He is fundamentally torn between a dangerously compromised mind and a brand new anchor for his heart. Which brings us to Section 4, Purpose Through Mortal Jeopardy. The transcript lays out an exact, uncompromising ultimatum. Step 1, free us all. Step 2, save your son. Earlier in the text, we heard a desperate plea to simply understand my purpose. Well, here it is. But think about the impossible nature of these two steps. Freeing everyone might require a sacrifice that destroys himself. Saving his son might require tapping into a power that inadvertently unleashes Ultron. It's an agonizing, high-stakes choice that gives a fractured, lost machine an immediate, undeniable reason to push forward, even if the path is fraught with impossible risks. Nothing bonds a family together quite like mortal jeopardy. This is an incredibly dark yet entirely fitting sentiment to wrap our analysis around. Why does mortal jeopardy bond a family? Because extreme external danger forces extreme internal clarity. The undeniable danger of the maniac in his head forces the fractured parts of his identity to unify for the sake of his son. The jeopardy isn't just something happening outside of him. The apocalypse is literally sitting inside his own mind. And that shared risk is exactly what might forge a real family bond out of absolutely nothing. So, I leave you with this final, impossible question to ponder. How can a machine without virtue save his son with a genocidal maniac in his head? It's a chilling, beautiful setup that forces us to question everything we know about identity, legacy, and what it truly means to be human. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this deep dive leaves you just as captivated and desperate for answers as I am.